lights. Lights. Well, someone wanted me to start early. I wonder. 12:30, right? I just heard someone say, it's time. I wanted to be just very considerate. We do have a lot of people who said they'd be online, and so I didn't want to start until they tuned in. So everyone just wave to our online people. So good to see you, be seen by you. I can't wait till we get our camera up here. And that way the congregation will be able to see you online. And I know it feels creepy, right? And like, oh, da-da-da. Think relationship, right? These are the people who, whether it's half the time of the year they're not able to see your face, or whether physically they just can't be here anymore, now they'll be able to see you in relationship. So with that, speaking of relationship, hi, welcome. My name is Pastor Erin. I'm one of the pastors here, if you don't know. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. I always feel, especially when you are given a gift like this, it's good due diligence to kind of share and report back. But also, I'm super excited about how Sabbatical was. The question is, does anyone care? So it's so nice to know that people care. So we're gonna try this concept out. I have a point deal. The deal is I can't see what the next slide is, and even though I created it, I've been preaching all weekend, so we might be surprised together as to what my slides are. So let's see if I do this. If I do this. If I do this. You guys might be my clickers. Oh, there we go. Okay, was that you or me? Okay, good to know. All right, so again, first I want to thank you. Yes, that was one cat. Look at him just kind of hanging out. All of the pictures that you're going to see are pictures that I took during the 2 months from various places, various stages, just to kind of give you a plethora. I think I had like 1,500 pictures. We're not going to do that, just so you know. But just to kind of give you a flavor. But a couple of thank yous. One, what was it, 3-4 years ago, Lorraine, that the church council said, hey, sabbatical. That might be something that would be helpful for our pastors. And so the sabbatical policy wasn't even in place until about 3-4 years ago. And so thank you as a congregation for seeing that this is of value for our ministers and that we continue in this place. Thank you again for allowing me to leave at such an inconvenient time. We always knew Pastor Wyatt would be leaving, but we thought it wouldn't be until August. And so originally we thought, okay, if I'm gone like May, June, that should be fine because then we'll still have a full team here. Then he later, after I booked my time at the Camino, said, oh yeah, that's going to be in June. Oh, okay, great. But again, we talked, we're going to be good. And then Pastor Tim decided that taking another call right in the middle of sabbatical would be awesome. So again, we had conversations. We talked with the church council, talked with Deacon Emma and Pastor Carol, and said, what do you guys think? Are we going to be okay? And they said, yeah, we're going to be okay. Go. I was like, why are you pushing me out so early? Is there something else? And then again, just thank you, congregation, for caring for our staff and our people during this time. It's just been beautiful to see, again, how we come together as church. So thank you. That sign there, you did it, you found your own pace, be a rebel forever, was my last day of walking on the Camino that hung from a tree. And it just was kind of my phrase. All right, let's see. Yep, no, Isaiah, I'm just going to say click, and that's your cue. So click. All right, just checking the text to see if it's someone online. It is. Yes, it is online now. Okay, sabbatical rooted in Sabbath. So one of the things I want us to all come together is, in reality, this is not just a pastor thing. That all of us need to be taking this time. And the word sabbatical is rooted in the word Sabbath, which means Shabbat. It means to rest. And so for us in particular, this time comes from a very biblical understanding. Click. First, it comes from Genesis, right? In the order of creation. On the seventh day, God did what? And we are made in the image of? So what should we do? right? It's part of who we are. It's part of the fabric of who we are. And then in Exodus, Sabbath is given again. And God says, remember you were slaves, and so you are to rest. And there's this understanding that we are more than what we do. So Sabbath is that reminder that you are more than your work, but you're also more than your role of mother, of grandfather, of patriarch, of child, that you are more than just what you do. And then the third biblical rooting is in Leviticus. Creation is given a Sabbath every 7 years. Every 7 years they were told not to plant anything because even creation needs to rest and be restored. And in that time, remember, they were an agricultural community. Where do you get your food if you don't plant for a year? So in that, there's also this call to trust that God will provide. And so when we go on Sabbath, one of the things we trust is that God can run the world without us. And I will say, leaving Resurrection, knowing what we were facing, was huge trust, right? Huge trust that we were going to be okay. There's another part of trust, and that is, I'm still going to have a job when I return, right? Because, well, if you can get along without me for 2 months, when we're down members, do I really serve a purpose? Right? There is that internal, what is my role? And what does that look like? And so when we go into these Sabbath times and these times of rest, there's part of being able to trust God enough that God is enough. And whatever that looks like on the other side, we will be carried into that space. Click. So sabbatical is for all of us. Do you believe that? Do you take it? Right? I think our world gets so busy that we forget what that looks like. But sabbatical is different than vacation. Click. See? Sabbatical is not vacation. People are like, oh, have a great time on your 2 months. Oh, so great, you get to be off work. It is very different than vacation. Click. See, vacation is a break from work, right? Vacation is primarily about recreation and rest. And you kind of like, oh, what do I want to do? And you should return rested. Although sometimes we say I need a vacation from my vacation, right? But then we're doing it wrong. Sabbatical, click, is something different. Sabbatical and Sabbath is a break from the ordinary patterns. And the primary function is renewal and reflection. And you begin to reflect on what is possible when the ordinary day-to-day is no longer there. Like people are worried, like, oh, Pastor Erin, she's going to check her email. Folks, I didn't even open up my emails until July. A break from the ordinary patterns. And then begin to say, okay, God, what's possible when I don't have all of that? And you return changed, transformed, and what that looks like. Are you taking sabbatical, folks? Right? When we look at it differently and the ways in which God intends it for us, it's a totally different experience. Click! So for me, sabbatical was not about going to find God. It was creating space to notice where God already is. Think about that, right? It's not about going to find God, but it's about creating that space to see where God already is physically, emotionally, right, within us. Click! And then, when I did notice, to ask the question, what is being revealed? Right? There's that next layer. It's not just noticing where God is, but it's asking that good Lutheran question, so what does this mean? Click. So it begins with a step, a pilgrimage, a journey to touch the sacred. So when I was dreaming of this time, this has been my second sabbatical. When I was in Minnesota, I was given a sabbatical. That one, I wanted to be of service. I had done so many service trips, led so many trips. I wanted to be of service. And so I was able to go to Tanzania for 2.5 weeks and just empty myself out, be of service. I also went, that's when I went to Disney, and I studied at the Walt Disney World Institute and studied their customer service. Because I think Disney and the church have a lot, right, in their hospitality. First time I pulled into Disney World, they looked at me and said, "Hi, welcome home." Never even been there. But so I studied there, and then I wanted to do health stuff, so I actually went to the Biggest Loser Ranch for 2 weeks. That's a whole other story. It was pretty awesome. But so this one, I was like, okay, God, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And I knew I needed to get away from the noise. It's been a rough couple of years in the world and in ministry and in my life. I think even just my father passing and getting used to that. We all are getting older, and so, I've hit that 50 plus. When you start to hit a new age bracket on every survey you fill out, right, you begin to wonder. Right? Yeah, I think I'm going to hit that next one. So I knew I needed to get away from the noise. And I felt like the world had been defining who I was, and I lost myself. And so I thought, what better way than to go for a walk? And I'd heard about the Camino de Santiago. I'd heard about it many, many moons ago. We have members of our congregation who have gone in the past. We have members who are going here in the future as well. And I thought, all right. Walking through Spain, that sounds fun, right? And so I started reading this book called Pilgrimage, and it talked about what a pilgrimage is a journey to touch the sacred. Folks, again, that can happen in your backyard, right? It can happen in your mind. It is a journey with an intention to touch the sacred, to meet God. And so we ended Vacation Bible School on the 5th. I flew out on Sunday the 7th into Porto, Portugal. So let's go to the click. So first of all, the Camino de Santiago, Camino, the way, Santiago, St. James. I'm not going to go into a whole ton about this because this was six days of 2 months of sabbatical, but I am going to talk about it. So this map represents, there's so many different ways that you can do the Camino de Santiago. The Frances route is the longest route, and that one's the 800 kilometers or 500 miles. And Jane Stash, a member of our church, she done it twice. The second one was with her husband, Tom. They took about a month or so to do it. Has anyone else been on the Camino here? Yes, that's right, because I saw you at the little deal. Which route did you do?
From Porto to Santiago, so the Portugal coastal route.
Yeah, and so we did, I did not go from, I flew into Porto, drank some port, and then I took a bus up to Vigo. So I didn't do quite as far. Yeah, so there's all these different routes. And they all come to the Santiago, St. James. Now, actually, see where it says Finisterre? So Finisterre on the coast there, that's the end of the world. And so part of this pilgrimage that happened, it's been happening for over 1,000 years, was a walk to the end of the world. And at Finisterre, you see the sunset on the horizon. Now, what's fascinating is there's actually a place in Japan that is the exact opposite, that is called the beginning of the world. And there are pictures on a certain day, as the sun sets at Finisterre, it is rising in this place in Japan. And so this place has always captured the imagination. So I did the Portuguese route as well. Now you'll see the Portuguese route starts all the way down in Lisbon. Nope, not me. I flew into Porto, phenomenal town. Spent a couple days just getting my brain and heart right in that space, coming from VBS, coming from work. And then I took a bus, and you see that little pink area right between Porto and Rondela? That's called the spiritual variant, and that's what I did as well. One of the things that captured my imagination, again, St. James. This is James brother of John, disciple, sons of thunder, right? James was beheaded in Jerusalem. And when he was beheaded and martyred, for some reason, and people don't really know why, but he ended up Spain to be his home. And so he is the patron saint of Spain. And when they brought his body back, they did it through the water, and that spiritual variant allows you to take that path, and you actually take a boat ride, and so you see the crosses, the same boat, and then you walk from Pardon into Santiago the same way that they carried the body of St. James. And so for me, the spiritual variant just kind of spoke to a little of that core. Click! So there we go. So in red there on my Google map, that is kind of the places that I went, flying into Porto, then taking a bus, and then all of those red dots are all the places that I stopped. I also then stayed a little bit longer and went to a place called Lugo for the Arte Lucas, basically a Renaissance festival on steroids for 3 days. They have all kinds of, they celebrate their heritage. It's when the Celts and the Romans came together. Awesome. And then I went down to Madrid for a couple of days and then flew home. A couple of things, you'll see that first one is the cross with the shell. So that is the cross of St. James and the Camino shell, which now adorns my arm. So that is the tattoo. I knew I was going to get marked whenever I go on pilgrimages. I always get marked because they change me. And I thought, all right, Holy Spirit, reveal to me what will mark me. And that was on a door, and I took a picture of it, and it spoke. So I took it to the artist. The other marker there is the spiritual variant. I joined others as we were walking, and then you veer off. And that little pedestal there, Galicia, I was excited because that was the first time I went to single digits. Like I had 9 kilometers left out of all of them. I was like, single digits, I'm gonna make it. So I was super excited to see that. The Camino, the walk, there is a time where the first couple days you're like, oh, adrenaline. This is awesome, right? You're like, woohoo, I'm walking, I'm pilgrimaging. And then you get to like your 3rd or 4th day or whatever your middle time is. And then you're like, I'm walking. Same boots. Same clothes. Gonna do this again. And like literally, then you get up and you're like, oh, tomorrow I'm walking. Again. Same boots. The Camino to me was way harder of a mental journey than a physical journey. Of course, I did stop every afternoon, switch socks, take 3 Advil. At night, I did the same thing. I took a lot of Advil. It was all good. But there was this learning to be okay of the monotony, of the boredom. And can I do it? Because that whole map, if you actually went from Santiago to Porto, it's only a 3-hour bus ride. And so what took me 6 days to walk would take you 3 hours on a bus. Right? So there is also this reality of I could call an Uber anytime I wanted. And people do, which is great, because like if you have bad blisters or you hurt yourself, that way you are able to get through. And so the Camino just kind of started for me where God was going to show up. So I pray, I double dog dare God, reveal yourself. Let's do this. And I wanted a burning bush, right? Like I wanted the voice, Charlie. I wanted to see a burning bush and God to say, Erin, this is your path, right? Like let's do this. God did show up, but it was in a lot of different ways. And so I'm going to show you 3 different ways that God appeared throughout my whole time on sabbatical. And just to kind of show you maybe what you could experience in your life. And so the first one, click, is God revealing who we are being called to be. So again, I'm walking on the Camino, and you walk through all different kinds of lands and experiences. Sometimes you're in the middle of cities. Sometimes you're out in the middle of the woods. And let's go ahead and click, and then click again so this video starts. So I'm leaving my wax stamp place. And I'm supposed to go on this path. Here comes a little baby horse. Here comes a little baby horse. I feel like little baby horse shouldn't be where a little baby horse is. There's mama horse. Hi, little baby horse. Hi, little baby. Hi. Hi, mama. Hi, honey. I don't know that you should be out in the road. Come on. Come on. Come on, come back to mama. Come on. Come on. Come back to mama. Come on. All right, Yeah, I was like, okay, I have to stop the video because I gotta get this baby horse back to mom. So like there was a road in the whole, and I was like, what is that? I was all by myself, nobody else out there. And here's a random baby horse. And there's a problem, right? Like there's a hole in the fence. The farmer who's been doing this for hundreds of years doesn't know what he's doing. Like I was like, I gotta fix it. Because me, American Sassoniite, who's never been on a horse, I know how to get a horse back to where, so like I'm trying, as you heard, trying to get the baby horse back. And so eventually some other people came and they're like, oh, cute little horse. I'm like, yeah, but there's a problem. Like, why don't you see there's a problem? And so then eventually woman goes, hey, and just like there actually was no hole in the fence just stopped. And stop shaking your head like you know this. The baby horse just goes right up to where mom is, because mom was tethered, right? Mom was tethered. And I was like, what's that say about me? Right? Look, it's a problem. Is it a problem? And I started to wonder, right? This is the reflective part. This is like God showing up and then doing the reflection. What is it about me that always sees problems and then assumes they're problems? Like Mama Horse, it was not a problem. She was not stressed. Like why don't I often take the cues of like maybe looking around? Why do I always feel like I'm the one to solve it? Like other people, they just kept walking, oh, cute baby horse. And they just kept going. Am I the problem? Right, like what about me? And then I thought, okay, well, you know what? Like there's some really good things. I care. That's really good. I'm actually a really good problem solver. Like my brain, it works really, really quickly that way. Like there's some really good things. And then if I think even more, I kind of like it when people look to me to solve problems. Kind of feels good. And then when I look even deeper, I think I'm right. Like my way usually is the right way. And I thought about this, and now, and I've shared this with other people, now when I see a problem, I think baby horse. Is it a problem? Let me stop and look around. Does anyone else think this is a problem? Like, am I just thinking it's a problem? Does it need to be solved? Is anyone asking me to solve this problem? I have some ideas how we could, but is anyone asking? Right, so sometimes God's revelation is about who we are called to be, and sometimes it's painful to look in that mirror. So the next one, click. God revealing an answer to a prayer or a wonder. So when I started this walk, actually one of our members last year, Jen Tice, we were talking about walking, and she challenged me to do this without distraction, because I always have something in my ear. I'm always listening to something. And so I was like, all right, so I took on that challenge. And also the first 2 days, I walked by myself. No one stopped to walk with me. Like I'd always read, oh, you're Camino family, and you're going to meet all these people. No. And I stayed, I did my bougie Camino, so I stayed in hotels and not albergues, because I like the concept of my own private bathroom. Sue me. So, but what that did do was I wasn't in community. So even at dinner time, like the first night after walking 8 hours by myself, I sat alone for dinner. The second day, I walked completely by myself. And I'm like, okay, this third day, it's going to be a climb. Click. So the third day, yup, look at that elevation, folks. And also notice it's halfway through the day. So you do your whole morning, and then you're going to hit and go up. So I knew it was like 7 kilometers of just straight uphill. And I know myself, I will quit on myself. Like if I have to think about this, I will give up mentally way before I give up physically. And so I was like, all right, so the morning was beautiful. And you ended up, like at that top picture, you ended up all the way at sea level. So that sea level is like at the bottom. And then you get all the way up to that top. So that's a picture, and I'm still climbing at that point. So that's kind of what you're looking at. So when I'm getting ready to do this, I had my morning, it was fine. And so I stopped, I ate lunch, the whole thing. And then I was like, all right, Jesus. I will give up on myself if I'm not distracted. If I'm just in my brain trying to do this climb, the whole entire time I'm going to be thinking, I can't do this, I can't do this. It's hot, it's going to be about 90 degrees, the whole deal. So I'm going to put my earbuds in. I'm just going to do it. It's the only thing I can do. I'm going to put my earbuds in, I'm going to listen to music. I need to distract myself in order to do this. So I get through about 2 songs, and I turn a corner, and there's a guy who we kind of run back and forth because I got lost a couple times, and it's over here, which was really helpful. So he was standing there, and there was a fountain coming out, like water coming out, and he said, hey, you might want to fill up your water bottles before we go. And I was like, oh yeah, good idea. He's like, yeah, I don't know if you want to, but I mean, we could. And if you wanted to walk together, we don't have to talk, or you could talk, like whatever. And I was like, all right, I'll take that invitation, right? So I took the earbuds out. And so I met Neil. Neil was a proper gent from England who was working in Scotland, who decided 3 days before he flew that he was going to come do the Camino. I was like, Neil, I've been working on this for a year. He's like, yeah, I just rented my stuff in Porto. It was fine. I was like, whatever. And so Neil and I started to walk. Now, Neil's, we don't need to talk, lied. Because Neil needed to talk. Neil needed to trauma dump, basically, of his whole life. And yeah, it was great. Like, I was actually like, I'm really okay. Because I don't know that I need to talk, because I don't know that I can talk, because we're going uphill for 7 kilometers. But I can listen. And so we did. So we walked, and we walked, and we walked. And Neil, I learned like a lot. Here's the destination we're going. I'm a slow walker. I got my deals. I like to take the pictures. I'd be like, Neil, I'm going to stop. I'm going to wait. He's like, oh, no, that's good. We should look at things. Yes. And so we get to a point, and I'm like, Neil, I'm taking off my backpack. I'm stretching. I don't know how you're doing this 3 days in. So I take off my backpack. I'm stretching, doing the whole deal. And then another guy, Robert, ends up joining us, and he's a single guy. And so Neil, Robert, and I do this walk. And every single time, we're like, are we not there? How can we still be going up higher? We kept going, and then we kind of hit it, and then we kind of came down the way. And at that point in time, Robert peeled off first because he had his Alberget. So we're like, all right, hey, great knowing you. That was awesome. And then Neil came, and we went a little further. And one of our members here, she made me, before I left, 2 ceramic or fused glass hearts with crosses on them, and then like a little footpath. And she wrote in the note, one is for you to carry in your pocket, and one is to give to someone who needs it. And so Neil asked me before he went his way to bless him. And so we prayed, and I blessed him, and I gave him that cross. And I just said, I want you to know, someone from my congregation knew you were in need. And they gave this for me, for you. And so that night, as I was pondering and reflecting, I was like, all right, the first 2 days I would have loved to have someone to walk with, but I didn't need it. But that 3rd day, when I knew I would need, God provided. Right? And I had to say yes to the invitation. So I had to be open. I could have said, no, Neil, I've got this. But I didn't. And so sometimes, that revelation, it is about a wonder. It's about a need. And for me, again, with everything that's been happening in my life and my world, it's like, all right, God, If I don't have the answer to something, it's because I don't need it yet. Because I know when I need it, you will show up. But I also need to pay attention. Click. So there you go. There's Neil and Robert as they're hiking ahead of me, as always. There's a selfie that we took at the bottom. Neil's in the orange, Robert's in the blue. And then that night, I ended up, again, there's just this really cute little hotel area. And Ken and Jim were there as well, the two guys on the boat. And they are two Lutherans, ELCA Lutherans from the Washington, Virginia area. And they were doing the Camino. And so we sat together at dinner, like, you're a pastor, and so we had all the conversations. And Ken and Jim ended up being my Camino family. We met that night, and then the next day, again, they didn't start till 10 in the morning. Folks, I was starting at 4:30 in the morning to get out of the heat. I'm from Arizona. I know what this is like. So, but I met them in Padron. We were on the same boat, so we did the same boat ride. We exchanged information. We met up in Santiago. We had dinner together. We went to the Pilgrim's Mass together. And when I was putting this together, I just messaged them. And I said, hey, I just want to thank you for being an answer to a prayer for me, because you guys became my Camino family. So sometimes God reveals these things. They are about the answers and the things that we need. But again, we got to say yes. And we got to remove the distractions to see it. Click. God reveals a new way of being. So sometimes, right, we have to change. We have to be transformed. And for the longest time, I've always been someone who I need distraction. Like literally, folks, I wake up in the morning, my phone is by my bedside stand. Immediately, like as soon as I get up in the morning, usually I put it on Hulu and I catch up on General Hospital. And so General Hospital is on while I'm making my coffee. I literally have a stand in my shower where my phone goes so I can continue to watch Laura and Lucky and everyone as they go. All the time. In my office, I'll have something going, whether it's music, the whole deal. I have to sleep to something. The West Wing is my sleep show because I have to have something that I've watched a gazillion times so that I'm not interested in it, but something that my mind can plug into. So literally, the phone, it's on HBO Max. I have it set for just one episode, then it stops. So I put it on, turn it over, I'm asleep before the credits. Wake up in the middle of the night, next episode. Like my brain, I constantly need distraction. And so when Jen Tice said, you should do this without distraction, the words I said in the beginning were not very Christian to her. Because I would have to be alone with my thoughts. That's dangerous, right? And I might have to deal with issues of my family, right? Like all of those things. And I was like, all right, so let's do it. And I did. The only time was those 2 songs. And then every single day, except the last one, because I made a choice, I did it without distraction. And what I realized was in having this silence, I was able to notice. And so we're going to click. We're going to click. And then so these are all the things I noticed. So this is just a lovely little slideshow. If I had talent, I would put music behind it. Oh, silence, that's what we're doing. see, right, when you stop to notice. When you just open your eyes to where God is calling. That first, with the fruit basket, this happened often when you're walking. That was just on a trail. And it was, people had left it for pilgrims, for those who were walking, to just take fruit. The crucifixion there was in one of the churches in one of the cities. And so sometimes I would arrive earlier than what I could check in. And so I would just go find churches, because usually they were air conditioned, and to be able to sit and reflect. And the flowers. And so many times just to be able to stop, to listen. And I will say, since then, I now crave silence. Now I don't necessarily watch General Hospital first thing when I get up. Now there are times where I sit at my house without anything on. I'm not afraid of my thoughts anymore. Well, at least I'm not afraid to see them. And so there's a beautiful way that sometimes when we take the Sabbath time, God reveals, hey, there's a new way of being that I'm calling you into. And so the revelations didn't stop once I came back here. A couple other places I went and experienced. Click! Sabbath in our own backyard. That's at Mount Lemon. All right? Just to take that drive, turn off the radio in the car, just have this silence. Click! Kirchner Caverns. If you haven't been, you gotta go, just down the road. And when I was sitting there, and again, you can't take pictures, I had to Google pictures, I thought, God created this amazing, beautiful, not for us. It was never intended for us to see it. And it's existed for thousands of years before we discovered it. Like, in some ways, I'm like, holy cow, God, you don't really even care about us. And then I also thought, a God who created that, not for me, cares for me. And then, click. That's what you see when you go to Kirchner. All of that beauty is underneath that. And I thought, wow, God, we never know what's underneath the surface. And then I felt convicted. How many times have I looked at a human and not even thought about what's underneath the surface? Click. I went to the Grand Canyon. Click. So these are going to scroll through some pictures. I took 3 days at the end of my trip. I started out in nature. I wanted to end my time out in nature. Stayed in these really cool sky domes where you can have and see the whole landscape. Got up super early and went out to see sunrise at the Grand Canyon. Again, just to get lost in God's world. And while I was there, I took a drive around the rim. And I saw just all of the way the canyon is made through the water, the pressure, right? The resilience and resistance of the land. And I thought to myself, all right, God, if you can create this with pressure and resistance and time, what are you creating in me? When I feel that pressure, when I feel like the time is moving, when I have resilience. God, what are you creating inside of me when you can create this masterpiece? So I'm convicted that you guys have given me a gift of 2 months. It is my calling job to help you find these spaces, because people can't take 2 months, but you can take 30 seconds. You can take a drive. So I have some thoughts. Click. Practicing Sabbath. Again, that's our own Push Ridge. Yeah, my phone is a really good camera. Click. Being mindful and take notice. That's the first thing. Stop and take time. That cloud there was while I was sitting at the Grand Canyon, and to me it looked like an angel with a trumpet. Right? Just take time. I was able to go back to Ohio, and those are my 3 soul friends. We went to college together. And they all live in northern Kentucky, and so whenever we get together, whenever I go back, we get together. Right? Noticing your friends, your relationships, that God is working in there. And that third one there is, I was up at Pine Top, and we just went for a hike, and there's just this random, right, cactus that someone had put together to make a cross. Right? If I had my earbuds in, I may not have noticed. So the first way we practice Sabbath is be mindful. Take notice. Click. Be grateful and give praise. Now, I may or may not have been driving when I took that picture. But I now live up at Dove Mountain, up in that area, and it is the most beautiful thing because every morning as I drive to work, I get to see the sun rise, and every night when I'm driving home from work, I get to see the sunset. And I don't know if any of you were up at, what time did I get here? About 7:30, 7:45 this morning, but there was this fascinating clouds that were kind of swooping and lingering. I think like some rain was in them. Like, be great, like stop and be grateful. And give praise to who God is and what God is doing in creation. That's how we practice that Sabbath. And then the third one, click. Reflect. So one of the things when I was back in Ohio, that pastor, Larry Hofsis, and his wife, Cindy, he was the one in 1997 who took this camp counselor who had no Bible education, no theological education, and hired me to work full-time as a youth director, to where when the kids are like, oh, can we have a lock-in? And I was like, sure. What's a lock-in? And that woman there, Jane and Dick Lane, Jane Lane was the education director and confirmation director at that church with me. And during this time, so Larry retired many, many moons, but he still teaches at that same church. And when I was back in Ohio, he was offering a class. And so I was able to go and be with Larry and Cindy and Dick and Jane Lane, these people who had formed me. And the joy they saw of being a pastor, right? They saw me when I was a 24, 25-year-old punk kid, didn't know nothing. And they raised me. And so part of it is practicing Sabbath is reflecting. When I see Larry still teaching in his 90s and still saying God has things to still teach me, right? Like that's inspiring, that there is never a time that God isn't willing to teach if we're willing to learn. And with Dick and Dane, Dick still plays drums in the contemporary band. Like he's the only guy who knows how to do PowerPoint for the whole church still. Like they are still, because everyone else has moved on to whatever, but like they are still so rich in this space. And so to practice Sabbath is to reflect. All right, click. And be transformed. So that's me in front of the church. And no, I didn't get there when no one else was there. If you take pictures, load them into ChatGPT, they can take out all the people. So it makes you get a really cool picture of just you. Right? So cool. And then that's me at the Grand Canyon. That's what it means to be in a Sabbath practice. And that's the gift that God has for all of us. Click. Be renewed. That's me sitting at my friend's house in Ohio. For those of you who have never been in the Midwest, that's what a backyard looks like. Just so you know, like during that spring, early summertime, just the lush, the green. I was talking with Brenda, we were talking about fundraising, and we used to do a big mulch fundraiser where we'd sell, and she's like, what do you use mulch for? I'm like, oh, you're not a Midwesterner. And so Sabbath allows us to be renewed. And click. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for humankind. Right? Remember, this is a gift. It's a gift from God. To take the time to be able to be fed, to be renewed, to be recentered. I shared a couple times today, one of the big things is I remembered I'm a child of God. Worship here is a job. Right? When I am here, I am thinking about why the slides didn't work at the song at the 10:45 service. Right? I'm thinking, oh, how come that person's spouse didn't come? We need to check on them. Right? I'm thinking, okay, God, I wrote this, but you better be in this because I don't know if this is going to work or not. And so then what I realized is I never worship. So coming back, I found a community. I found a lovely Episcopal church. It meets at 4 o'clock on Sundays. Because I need to worship as a child of God, and not Pastor Erin, but just Erin. Right? The Sabbath was made for humankind. Not everyone can take it 2 months. Not everyone can take a day. But we can take 30 seconds because God created it for you to give rest. So that's my presentation. I know, we're done early. I will entertain questions. But any thoughts or reflections, or as you hear that, what are you guys hearing? What are you thinking? I would love to hear what moved you or what touched you and where you're at. Yeah. For our online people.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Sue. I feed birds, and I just have this belief that when a particular bird comes to my feeder, that it is somebody from my life that I lost and I loved. And I will just stand there on my own and reflect, and I make myself stand there until the bird leaves. And it could be quite a while, but it's a time where I'm really, I don't know, it's just really special to me. Thank you.
I love that. Thanks, Jennifer. Anyone else, birds? Anyone else kind of have that pattern, right? When you see certain birds type things? Yeah, no, they were just raising their hand. Yeah, I think that's very common, that a lot of people experience that. Excellent. Other thoughts or things that touched you or how you are finding Sabbath? What does that look like in your life? Yeah, Miss Ev.
You showed us 2 slides.
Closer to your mouth. There you go.
You showed us 2 slides with a large cross and one on each side and a beautiful little stream with the greenery in the back.
Yeah.
And I saw it 2 times, and I'm wondering, it's along the path?
Yeah. So, I know exactly what you're talking about. So the boat. So when you do the boat ride from Padron, or from Ponte Verde, Villanova to Padron, doesn't matter. You do the boat ride. Again, pilgrims, hundreds of years, how do they know where to go? And so those big stone crosses that you saw, they have those all along the waterways. And that marks the way that you go. And so, so that's what you saw a couple of times and throughout. So you saw a lot of stone crosses. Those have been there for hundreds of years that mark the way of the pilgrimage. And so, just a lovely way of keeping that centered. Did those speak to you, Ev? Yeah. She was saying it's so peaceful. Probably a lot of people would stop there to take that time. Yeah, for sure. Others, what's hitting you or questions? Thoughts about Sabbath? Yeah, over here. Get the microphone.
Yes, Pastor Erin, you mentioned like in that window there, I'm sorry, that slide with the shell and the water. But you said something about the shell. What was that again? I kind of missed that.
So the shell, that scallop shell, is the pilgrim's shell. And so, again, for hundreds of years, that's how you would know that they were pilgrims walking the pilgrimage. They would take that scallop shell and they would sew it into their clothes, or they would hang it. And so actually, members from here, Jane Stash, who'd walk the Camino, she bought me my shell before I left. And so you have them on your backpacks. For us, it is that baptismal water, right? That oftentimes you'll see here when we do baptisms, we do them with the scallop shell because it means new beginnings and transformations. And so you saw that shell throughout. It would be like on grates, on the ground. It would be in windows, that kind of thing. And then that's where, so it sits on the cross of St. James on my tattoo of remembering that promise as well. Yeah, great. Yes, David.
When you began, you talked about the excitement at the beginning of the Camino, and there's a lot of people to cheer you on here as we sent you off. Go get them, girl. And but once you get there, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. And are you familiar with who Dag Hammarskjöld was? He was the Secretary General of the United Nations before you were born.
Oh, okay.
So you're excused. But anyway, he was a very intellectual guy from, I forget which country in Scandinavia, but he wrote in his markings, which was his biography, that and he hiked in the mountains. So, and I've had a couple of sabbatical trips, cross-country bike rides, things like that, but I always use that as my mantra, and when the freshness of the morning gives way to the weariness of midday, and every muscle quivers beneath the strain, it's then you must not hesitate.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so I heard you saying that in so many words. I thought, oh, that's Dag Hammarskjöld. So anyway, it's
Thank you.
entertaining and fun and almost spiritual to hear your spiritual experience.
Very much so. The same woman, Jen, who challenged me, she got me a bracelet, and I wore it every day. It's just this little thing, and in Morse code, it says bad ASS. And I wore it on my ankle during the hike. And so whenever my socks would rub against it and I'd feel that irritation, that was my reminder. I am a bad ASS. And I got one of my bracelets here is the 3 Camino shells. And I wear it every day. I never take it off. And it's my reminder I can do hard things. Right? Like we need, like for me, I need those physical reminders because my mind will outfox me every time. So yeah, so thank you. Yeah, Janet.
When you talked about learning to be in the silence and noticing things, I think that's really important, and I think that's something we can all do just on a daily basis in a small moment. We like to take drives. COVID sort of started us doing drives around here, and but you know, noticing things, that taking the time to think about who made them and you know how they come to be there. But
yeah,
it's sometimes you need to get the noise gone.
You do. We need to get the noise gone so we can hear God and what that is. Yeah, 2 up front here. Wait a minute, Karen, you got to do the mic for the onliners.
I just want to know, on this hike that took you so many days, was there ever a day when you said, I don't want to do this anymore?
Yup.
Really?
Yep. So, truth telling, I don't know if you all know this or not, but I like to look cute. When you're hiking in the same clothes day in and day out in the same shoes, you don't look cute. And so the day I was doing the boat ride, so you do the boat, and then you dock, and then I was supposed to do a 7-kilometer hike to get to my hotel, right? So it's like, 3.5 miles. But that would require me, then I'd have to wear my boots, and I'd have to be in hiking clothes. So I Googled, and I said, you know what? I'm done. I am not going to walk today. I'm going to figure out how to call a taxi in Spanish. And when I get docked off that boat, I'm going to call me a taxi. And it's going to take me the 3 minutes it would take a taxi to get to my hotel. Because I'm not putting on the boots.
I understand.
And I said, you know what? That's going to be okay. Because if that's what I need to do today, that's what I need to do. So there was a day, and I made that decision, and that was the day you saw the cappuccino and the really good pastry. That morning, I was like, I'm going to take up space. I'm going to go to a cafe, and I'm going to get something really good. I don't know what the heck I'm going to order because I don't speak Spanish, but we're going to do it. So it kind of, throughout that whole deal, and what I also learned was, I was making the walk my nemesis. Right? Especially with the heat, every day was like, I need to beat this walk. Right? This walk is me against the walk, and I will triumph. And the last day, I said, you know what? What if I made the walk my friend? What if I made it my companion? And that we're in this together. And so that last day, that's why it was so you found your pace, be a rebel. Like that last day, I was like, all right, we're just going to walk. And I found little kittens to feed, which was great. And I stopped at every church that I wanted to stop in. And so that also, right, that mental shift allowed me to then be in a space of, okay, maybe what sometimes I think is my greatest enemy, or I'm trying to beat or trying to win, maybe I need to make companionship with it, right? So maybe some of those dark thoughts that we have in our own lives, we gotta make friends with them instead of trying to beat them. Yeah. Connie and then Alan. Yeah.
And
Alaska, she said.
yeah, Alaska. We took a cruise, and the first morning when we came around a bend, I opened my curtains, and not kidding you, there was a cross standing on that corner. Don't know why, but it on the shore, it was just amazing. And it was a really great time of reflection, and to see, well, there's beauty obviously in Alaska, but just that was a reminder that God's the one that created all of that, and even the water we were sailing on.
I love that.
Yeah, so it was beautiful.
I love that.
Your crosses and your thing were
I'm so happy for you
Thank you.
because our life is a path, and you went on a path to see your life. So you can see the connectivity of it, God's path, and how convoluted it can be. And you've got a fresh view of it, and I think you get to have some introspection and see where the path leads. But I think it's a real message to everyone that we all have a path. Where are you on the path? And how connected to God are you on seeing the path of your life? So I was very happy. And travel does that anyway. It puts a new perspective on every word, how we describe things, how we see things, how other people in other worlds see coffee, see breakfast, see birds
Right.
and everything. So I was happy to see your new path.
Thank you. And, Miss Colleen. And I will say, like, being grounded here at Resurrection, like, I have no doubt, no question. And I can see God so much more clearly, even more now at Resurrection, after being able to take that time. Miss Colleen?
Yes, you hinted at the Disney Institute. Was that the beginning or the end?
Oh, that was actually when I did a sabbatical in 2014.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. And that was, I could do a whole nother presentation on that. That was
Yes.
unbelievable studying at Disney.
I did the 5-day Disney thing as the HR witch that I was. And
Oh, yeah.
I had just wondered if that had any play on what the walk was. And clearly the dates were different.
Yeah.
So, never mind.
No, you're fine, because I will say, and again, that's the beautiful thing. The things that I learned at the Disney Institute all the way back then, because of the time, because of not having distraction, because of not having to answer emails because I was on sabbatical, it sinked so far deeply in me that it still plays to this day. Right? And I think that's when we allow God's presence to sink so deeply in us that then it grounds us and it continues then to take root and to continue to produce is the other thing as well. All right, it's 1:30 and I want to make sure we're on time because some people really like that. thank you so much, A, for the gift, B, for coming. I will say, if you want to hear more, you can always invite me to dinner. I was talking, Pastor White and I are still in communication. I was going to a member's house. He's like, I love that you just always go to people's houses. And you are always good at saying, hey, it's time for me to go now. So if you want to hear more, there's, again, just so much, 2 months worth of God's revelations. And thank you for being here today. Yay! The end. Click.